Once again, Christian greetings to all our valued listeners and viewers throughout the whole world, even more particularly to all Shepherd's Rod believers, and most especially to our beloved brothers and sisters in the United States of America. Special greetings to our brethren in Colorado, our brethren in Kansas, in Georgia, in Texas, Missouri, in Fiji Island, in Mexico, Spain, in Africa, Kenya, Pakistan, to the United Kingdom, and also to our brethren in Australia, and to the rest of the 144,000 living saints scattered abroad. Greetings. May the good Lord bless you, brothers and sisters. This is our episode number 39 on the subject, the chronological order of events. Upon the request of our beloved brother Steve, Sister Corinne, and the rest of the brethren who are listening and viewing this program. Good evening, and may the good Lord bless you, brothers and sisters. I would like to read 1 TG, number 50, on page 18. It says, "Some, even to this day, do not realize that God rules, that men are not independent of Him, although they are permitted to choose whether or not to serve Him. It was not necessary for the Chaldean king to live with the beasts of the field. But as he could not learn his lesson by words in the easy way, he was removed from his palace and put into a corral, there to learn by experience in the hard way. And at the end of 7 years, after he had graduated, so to speak, from God's school of hard knocks, the king walked back into his palace." 1 TG, number 50, page 18. I remember the statement on 2SR, page 94. 2SR page 94. It says, "As there is no time left for calling out a new movement, then a message of amazing light and stern rebuke through the Word of God, with manifestations of divine judgments, is the only remedy that can bring true conversion and reformation." This reading is even reality today, that it seems the last remedy to bring true conversion and reformation is the manifestation of God's divine judgments. Although judgment is a strange work with a loving and a merciful God, but sometimes God is forced to perform such strange work in order to save humanity. I remember the statement in 1 TG 29 on page 9. It says, 1 TG 29, page 9. God, in His wisdom, knows that it is better to destroy comparatively few enemies of truth than to lose the whole world. All the stumbling blocks must be removed. 1 TG 29, page 9. Would you think the situation among the media today is not a stumbling block? In a divided state. The voice of inspiration says that in God's wisdom, He finally decided that it is better to destroy, accordingly, few enemies of truth than to lose the whole world. And thanks be to God, according to the shepherd's rod. I would like to read 1 TG number 30 on page 19. It says, let us read. It is concerning Isaiah 4, verse 3. And it shall come to pass that he that is left in Zion, and he that remaineth in Jerusalem shall be called holy, even everyone that is written among the living in Jerusalem. This verse clearly shows that while none of the wicked in the church will survive the purification, yet none of the righteous will perish. And who are they? They are those whose name had been left written in the books of heaven. 1 TG number 6, 38. It is obvious that they escape the destruction of the sinners in the church. Who are they? Only the holy ones, those whose names are left written in the book, escape the destruction that falls upon the wicked in the church. Only they constitute the remnant, the ones that are left. That is why the shepherd's rod plainly told us on 1 TG number 12, page 26, saying, ever remember that the books are opened and examined during the judgment day. Daniel 7 verse 10. That our names be found in that book should now be the most absorbing concern of each of us. 1 TG number 12, page 26. Here in track number 4, on page 40, it says, track number 4, page 40. But the names Ruhama, mercy, and Amai, my people, show that now, in the latter day period, He will have mercy upon them by destroying the wicked only, sparing all the righteous. Track number 4, page 40. In track number 14, page 16, I would like to read this reading. Track number 14, page 16. Nevertheless, if these belligerents will not voluntarily awaken to the fact that the destiny is not in their own hands, but in the mighty hands of the infinite and omnipotent God, then will He bring them involuntarily to that realization and spare only their God-fearing citizens, as He declares. It points out to the United States of America that with such oncoming destruction, God will spare only their God-fearing citizens. I remember the statement on track 14, page 20. It says here, for such judgment to be averted, the entire church will have to repent of her erroneous thinking, begin to feel discomfort in her lukewarmness, become either cold or hot, dissatisfied, and emptied of self and filled with the Spirit. In reality, it is even more applied to the Davidian today. If all Shepherd's Rod believers will humble themselves and unite together as one, there is possibility that such judgment will be averted. But the time is getting shorter and shorter, and there is no time left. I remember the statement in the old Symbolical. Symbolic Code, number 7, page 10 and 11. 10 Symbolic Code, number 7, page 10 and 11. It says, if the shepherd's rod had not poured out the straight truth and told the things which we may think would not bring disrepute to the church of God and to the watchmen on the walls of Zion, God could not be vindicated by his strange act with the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. God's strange act with the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. The message in the shepherd's rod is for a witness to the world which church is his. By this example, Ezekiel chapter 9, he will call out his sheep and quickly finish the work, not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord of hosts. Depending on high-minded men, he can never finish his work, nor gather his people. This is why the shepherd's rod contains the things which are objectionable to human reasoning. So, God is strange work, although the work of destruction is a strange work of a God being a merciful God. But we, as human beings, we are the one who invites and force God to perform such work of destruction. I remember the statement on the consecrated way to Christian perfection on page 72. Instead of allowing God's great purpose of the temple and its services to be met in themselves, the people utterly perverted that purpose. Instead of allowing the temple and its services, which God in His mercy had planted among them, to teach them how that He in truth would dwell among them by dwelling in their hearts and making holy their lives, they excluded all this true purpose of the temple and its services and perverted it all to the utterly false purpose of sanctioning grossest wickedness and cloaking deepest, darkest unholiness. For such a system, there was no remedy but destruction. Consecrated Way to Christian Perfection, page 72. Temple, in our modern time, that is headquarters. God's great purpose, why He commanded the prophet to establish headquarters, was greatly misconstrued and perverted. Look at the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Why is it that God commanded the prophet, Sister White, to establish headquarters? First in Battle Creek, Michigan, and then to Washington, D.C. That headquarters had been chosen by God through the guidance of His servant, the prophet. But it was perverted. I remember B.T. Hotep himself in 2 Symbolic Code, 2 Symbolic Code number 9, page 8. Saying, I would like to read. Since they have betrayed their trust, 2 Symbolic Code number 9, page 8. Since they have betrayed their trust, it will take the prayers of someone other than the leaders to pray God's people out of their Laodicean plight. And we are encouraged by the word of the Lord that He will not blot out His people for the sins of others, but destroy only those who, like ancient Israel, refuse this privilege of sighing and crying, which God has given to every present truth believer. We should profit by the mistakes of our brethren so that we too betrayed not our trust, as it is written of the ancient men, those to whom God had given great light and who had stood as guardians of the spiritual interests of the people. They had betrayed their trust. B.T. Hotep says, he is reminding all the Bedeans that supposed to be we should be profited by the mistakes of our brethren. In the Seventh-day Adventist Church, they betrayed their trust. The only trust that had been given by God to His people is spiritual trust. That is pointing to the present truth. Now, brothers and sisters, what if such headquarters that we are boasting are the very ones who are fighting against the present truth? Would you think they did not betray their trust? I remember the statement in 3 Symbolic Code 11 to 12, page 11. 3 Symbolic Code 11 to 12, page 11, it says, "We as members of Mount Carmel Center are greatly honored to carry this reformatory message to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, of which we ourselves are a part. And as this responsibility has fallen upon us, we should bear in mind that we, as those before us, are in great danger of losing out." Great danger of losing out. And one of the very apparent sign that such people have been betrayed their trust is the attitude. The attitude of the Jewish people. The attitude of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. The same attitude. That when such movement are boasting to their headquarters, that is the absolute sign that they betrayed their trust. Because, brothers and sisters, those people by which the present truth had been trusted by God, which is sacred trust, bestowed upon them, they must be the most humble people throughout the whole world. They will never boast their headquarters. The only thing that they will speak is to lift up the present truth, the message. Here in 4 Symbolic Code 4 to 9, page 2. 4 Symbolic Code 4 to 9, page 2. It says here, a solemn warning. So this warning is very solemn. To all careless or doubting or recusant spirits who tread the side edges of the road of present truth, the following words of inspiration stand as a faithful sentinels, warning of the grim fact that unless all side-edge travelers get over into the middle of the road and walk in the light, they shall eventually go the way of all aberrant present truth professors, out from the shepherd's rod, out from the light, and back into the foes of Laodiceanism, back into the darkness of sad and terrible and fearful deception. Then it says, we must walk in the light which shines upon us. Otherwise, that light will become darkness. At the very time, or in other words, at the moment, when the acclamation is made, the temple of the Lord are these. Temptations come in, and darkness gathers about the soul. Earthliness, selfishness, and self-glorification. At the very moment when you can hear that they are already boasting their headquarters, in reality, that is the time that temptations come in. Darkness gathers about the soul. Earthliness, selfishness, and self-glorification. For Symbolic Code 4 to 9, page 2. Now let us go back to the statement saying that the strange work of God is with the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. So, let us focus our attention to that statement. The fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. And let us compare the entire Shepherd's Rod publications concerning such event. Fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. Now let us begin reading again 2SR 221. And maybe I would like to begin 1SR 116 to follow the flow of our chart. Now let us read 1SR page 116. One SR page 116. He says, why would God make a double prophecy for the same thing? 1SR 116. So, it says, why would God make a double prophecy for the same thing? Because the old prophecy, the type, only gives the details from the beginning of the third angel's message to the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. So, we will show to you the diagram from 1844. So, let us, can we enlarge that one? So, the statement says, 1SR 116, why would God make a double prophecy for the same thing? Because the old prophecy, the type, only gives the details from the beginning of the third angel's message to the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. So in that reading, from 1844 to the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9, that is called the type. The type in the antitypical period. So, the voice of inspiration is plainly telling us that the old prophecy, which is the type, gives only the details from the beginning of the third angel's message to the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. But notice the statement is, give the details. From 1844 to the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. Now, let us read the next sentence. Still 1SR 116. It says, the prophecy by Ezekiel gives the information in detail. So both of them is in detail. From the beginning of Luther's Reformation to Ezekiel 9, marking of the 144,000 and unrolling of the scroll. Not all in regard to this matter is yet understood, nor will it be understood until the unrolling of the scroll. What message mentioned here, by which it says, not all in regard to this matter is yet understood? It is the message of the third angel. Now let us read the quotation in volume 6. Volume 6, on page 17. So let's read. It says, the light we have received upon the third angel's message is the true light. The mark of the beast is exactly what it has been proclaimed to be. Then it says, not all in regard to this matter is yet understood, nor will it be understood until the unrolling of the scroll. Volume 6, page 17. So what message mentioned that it will never be understood, not until the unrolling of the scroll? That is the third angel's message. Now, concerning the third angel's message, primarily pointing to Christ's mediatorial work in the heavenly sanctuary. Now, let us read again the great controversy. The Great Controversy, page 435. He says, those who had accepted the light concerning the mediation of Christ and the perpetuity of the law of God found that these were the truths presented in Revelation 14. The messages of this chapter constitute a threefold warning, which is to prepare the inhabitants of the earth for the Lord's second coming. But we explained that several times, that second coming is even more directly applied to the second invisible coming of Jesus Christ. Where? In the most holy place. Because it says, Christ's mediation in the heavenly sanctuary. So the third angel's message is pointing to Christ's mediation in the heavenly sanctuary. Now, I would like to read 2SR 217. 2SR page 217. Let us read. They who are to be sealed at that time were seen by John as a great multitude with palms in their hands. See Revelation 7 verse 9. And then it says, his the scroll was made a third, and the sealing for those who shall be judged while living has begun. Now I would like to read again to SR 217. It says, they who are sealed at that time were seen by John as a great multitude with palms in their hands. And it is in absolute importance to have a complete understanding concerning the great multitude. There are three classes of great multitude. The great multitude to be converted in the great tribulation. The great multitude to be converted during the little time of trouble. And the great multitude to be converted in the great time of trouble. The great multitude to be converted in the little time of trouble, and the great multitude to be converted in the great time of trouble, they are the great multitude that will never experience Ezekiel 9. Now, let us read the old symbolic code. Old symbolic code, 1 symbolic code, number 15, on page 8. One symbolic code, number 15, page 8. If the 144,000 sing the song which no other company can, it being a song of experience, why cannot the great multitude sing this song of experience? Too, if they have also lived through the 7 last plagues and are translated. Answer, it will be noted that the shepherd's rod is stating this of the 144,000 in comparison with the dead and not with the great multitude. However, the 144,000 have the experience of Ezekiel 9, which the great multitude do not possess, and this is the difference. But we should not limit our understanding only in one symbolic code, number 15, page 8. Because in one symbolic code, number 10, page 9, it says, one symbolic code, number 10, page 9, let us read the statement. It says, thus Ezekiel 9, one symbolic code, number 10, page 9. Thus Ezekiel 9 is applicable at 2 different times. First, at the time of the separating of the first fruits, the 144,000, and second, at the time of the separation of the second fruits, the great multitude of Revelation 7 verse 9. One symbolic code, number 10, page 9. That there is a constituent of the great multitude that will experience Ezekiel 9. And they are the constituent of the great multitude which is not defiled with women. Those great multitude which defiled with women, they will never experience Ezekiel 9. Now, I would like to read tract number 3. On page 72. And the second gives the second fruits, the great multitude from all nations, some of whom also may be undefiled with women, heathen churches. Tract number 9. On page 56. To gather a class defiled with women as second fruits. This class of saints must be those who have at one time been married to some unchristian mistress, a heathen church, and who consequently are not descendants of either Jacob or the Christian church. So there are to be two harvests, one from the church and one from the world. The record of the former mentions only Israelites, the 144,000, those not defiled with women, though it does not say that there may not be others, while the record of the latter, however, definitely embraces a great multitude from all nations, which must necessarily be both undefiled and defiled ones, Jews and Gentiles. Tract number 9 on page 56. So, that is very plain. Only those constituent of the great multitude which is not defiled with women that will experience Ezekiel 9. As stated in one symbolic code, number 10, page 9. And of course, they are the Sabbath keepers. Because the Sabbath keepers are divided into 3 classes. Spiritual Israel, they are those Sabbath keepers under the banner of the third angel's message. Modern Israel, they are those Sabbath keepers not under the banner of the third angel's message. And the third one is the literal Israel. So we have spiritual Israel, the modern Israel, and the literal Israel. Although the spiritual Israel can also be called modern Israel, but modern Israel can never be called spiritual Israel. Because the spiritual Israel are only those who are under the faith of the third angel's message, under the banner of the third angel's message. So, let us read again the statement in 2TG. Number 4. Because unless we have a better understanding concerning the first increment of the great multitude, those who are not defiled with women, then we will have a difficulty to understand the chronological order of events. In 2TG number 4, page 14, it says, "Here we are plainly told that the two ancient kingdoms, the types. What is the two ancient kingdoms? They are the types. He is to restore and join and so bring out the antitype. Of course, the antitype is the 12 tribes, spiritual Israel. Now let us connect to TG 43 on page 24. Let's read. 2TG 43, page 24. It says, here you see that not only will God cleanse His church, Judah and Israel, it is pointing to the spiritual Israel, the antitype. Here you see that not only will God cleanse His church, Judah and Israel, by taking away all those who pollute His house of prayer, but that afterwards He will gather into His purified church all the dispersed who have descended from both the kingdom of Israel, the 10 tribes, and of the kingdom of Judah, the 2 tribes, all who are now out among the nations, not in the church of the Laodiceans. So it must be the 12 tribes, literal Israel. The type, according to 2TG 4:14. And they will be the first one to be gathered into the church purified, the spiritual Israel. What is the difference between spiritual Israel, the 144,000 living saints, and the 144,000 literal Israel, the type? The 144,000 spiritual Israel, they were taken out from Egypt. But the literal Israel, brothers and sisters, that had been lost their racial identity, they will be taken out from Babylon. Here in 1TG number 11, page 3, it says, in our last Sabbath study, we learned that the prophecy of Zechariah is applicable to 2 peoples at 2 different times. First, to the Jews while they were returning from Babylon to Jerusalem. And second, to those who in time of the end are to come out of all nations. Revelation 7 verse 9. Revelation 18 verse 4. We also learned that the revival and reformation which took place in Zechariah's day is a type of a revival and reformation that is to take place in our day. And that the people returning anciently from Babylon is a type of the peoples returning in the latter day Babylon. Revelation 18 verse 4. And according to track number 5, they will be gathered after the cleansing of the heavenly temple. And that statement is directly applied on the first hand to the great multitude not defiled with women. The type. The literal Israel. Not the literal Israel in the Middle East. Because they were represented by the root. The literal Israel in the Middle East, the righteous that will be left in that land, they are called the root of the kingdom. Now here in track number 5:110, it says, it is not measured, investigated, because it represents those among whom there are no bad, to be cast out, for they are gathered in after the cleansing of the heavenly temple. Daniel 8 verse 14, after the judgment of the dead, after the separation of the bad from among the good in the church, as illustrated by the parable of the net, Matthew 13 verse 47 and 48, they are those who by name, my people, Revelation 18 verse 4, are called to come out of Babylon, and who with no unclean among them come into the already purified and living church of God. Who are they? Designated as my people. Let us read track number 4. Page 12. It says, accordingly, track number 4, page 12. Accordingly, whereas Luruhama means no mercy, and Luamai not my people, Ruhama means mercy, and Amai my people. Hosea 1 verse 6, Hosea 2 verse 4. So who are they designated as my people? The 2 tribes. And who are they designated as Ruhama means mercy? The 10 tribes. Now here in track number 8, on page 12, track number 8, page 12. Hearing Christ's teachings, then rejecting them and crucifying him, the Jewish nation brought upon their heads the doom which God pronounced upon them, when through his prophet he declared, ye are not my people. Of course, the word Jew pointing to the 2 tribes, Judah. It says, the Jewish nation brought upon their heads the doom which God pronounced upon them, when through his prophet he declared, ye are not my people, and I will not be your God. Though at the same time, in his great mercy, he let the promise be written in the place where it was said unto them, ancient Israel, ye are not my people. There it shall be said unto them, ancient Israel, ye are the sons of the living God. See Romans 9:24 to 26. Or in other words, that is the fulfillment of the reacceptance of the 12 tribes. The reacceptance. Track number 8 on page 12. So, I would like to go back again to the reading, brothers and sisters. I know there is a little bit difficulty at this time, but as we proceed to study every day, it will become clearer and more easier to comprehend. Now let's read 2 SR 217. Although there are abundance of evidences to prove concerning the first increment of the great multitude which were not defiled with women, pointing to all the Sabbath keepers not under the banner of the third angel's message. I would like to read first, who are the 12 tribes? In 2TG number 6. It says here, 2TG number 6, page 16. 2TG number 6, page 16. It says, plainly then, you can read the entire paragraph, but I would just like to read the last part to minimize time. Plainly then, many who are taken as Gentiles are but unidentified descendants of ancient Judah and Israel and the Jewish Christians. I would like to read again. 2TG number 6, page 16. Plainly then, many who are taken as Gentiles are but unidentified descendants of ancient Judah, Israel, and the Jewish Christians. 2TG number 6, page 16. So, that is very plain, right? So, let us read 2SR 217. Go back again to 2SR 217. It says here, uh, 2SR page 217. They who are to be sealed at that time were seen by John as a great multitude with palms in their hands. The great multitude mentioned here are the first increment. They are those who will experience Ezekiel 9. The first increment of the great multitude, the Sabbath keepers, those who are not defiled with women. When they will be sealed, it says, they who are to be sealed at that time were seen by John as a great multitude with palms in their hands. Hence the scroll has made a turn, and the sealing for those who shall be judged while living has begun. This reading plainly indicating that the first sentence is pointing to the holy place, and the second sentence is pointing to the most holy place. That at the time when the sealing for those who shall be judged while living has begun in the most holy place, that is also the predicted time that the scroll has made a turn. What is the scroll that mentioned there that to made a turn? It is pointing to the third angel's message. And we already read in 1SR 116, let us go back again to the reading. The prophecy by Ezekiel gives the information in detail from the beginning of Luther's Reformation to Ezekiel 9. Let us distinctly separate the groundwork and the particular object in view. Now, let us show the diagram, the second part. So this one, from 1580 to 1530 AD, the Reformation by Luther, or Luther's Reformation. It says, the prophecy by Ezekiel Now let us connect the prophecy by Ezekiel. Ezekiel has 48 chapters. But there is a particular object in view. And that is pointing to Christ's visitation on this earth. That is the prophecy by Ezekiel. And that prophecy by Ezekiel gives the information in detail. How do we define the word detail? Let us define first the word detail. Because that is the statement given by the shepherd's rod. It says, the word detail is a verb. Describe item by item. Give the full particulars of. So it says, give the full particulars of what? It says, the prophecy by Ezekiel gives the information in detail. The information is full because that what it means by the word detail. Item by item. From the beginning of Luther's Reformation to Ezekiel 9. Not only to Ezekiel 9, but also marking of the 144,000 and unrolling of the scroll. Now, that date, 1508 to 1530, is only the groundwork. That is not the particular object in view. Because the particular object in view is pointing to the proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary. For it is pointing to the third angel's message, the unrolling of the scroll. According to this reading, and 1 SR page 116. Now I would like to give you a little idea. Let's read 2 SR. 2 SR page 213. 2 SR page 213. It says, therefore, the Reformation by Luther falls under the fifth seal, and after it was opened, John was shown the souls of them that were slain for the word of God under the fourth seal. Now let us read again the statement here in 2 SR 213. Therefore, the Reformation by Luther falls under the fifth seal, and after it was opened, John was shown the souls of them that were slain for the word of God under the fourth seal. Now the question is that, brothers and sisters, does the fifth seal open in 1530? the commencement of the opening of the seven seals commenced in October 22, 1844. And the seal that had been opened in 1844 is the first seal, not the fifth seal. What is the Reformation by Luther? Righteousness by faith. What is the representation in Ezekiel chapter 4? Represented by the wheat. Let us read to TG 39. I think page 19 and 20. To TG 39. Page 19. So, let's read. To TG 39, page 19. Since we have seen that the 430 years ended in 1930, we had better now find out when the 390 years ended, the time the 40 years of grace began. To find this date, we subtract 40 years from 1930, which takes us back to 1890. What happened then to mark the beginning of the 40 years? Just this. The denomination then wholly rejected the message that was to unfold the truth of righteousness by faith and the righteousness of Christ. When was that? 1888. Right? Because it was 2 years presented and then they rejected it completely in 1890, according to this reading. So it is pointing to the Reformation by Luther. Righteousness by faith. Now let us go back verse 2. Because it is closely connected to Revelation 6, verse 6. There are only 2 grains mentioned, wheat and barley. So, we need to look at first the groundwork so that we could understand the particular object in view. One SR 118. With symbol of faith. The first portion of spiritual food or truth which we were to receive, represented by the wheat, was faith, as taught by Luther, as his doctrine was that just shall live by faith. How about barley? Barley, symbol of spirit. The second portion of food or fruit which we were to get was represented by barley. John Knox was the next man who made the second step by teaching the doctrine represented by the barley, which was the truth of the Holy Spirit. And the example mentioned here is Gideon. Right? It says, Gideon's experience with the Midianite's dream of the barley cake overturning the tent proves the same. Read Judges chapter 7, verse 13 and 14. Remember, B.T. Hotep mentioned that in White House Recruiter, page 58. White House Recruiter, page 58. It says here, the same divine principle obtained when with trumpets and with lighted candles counseled within pitchers, Gideon and his 300, under divine guidance and protection, encircled the enemy encampment as silently as tiger stalking its prey. Suddenly a signal blast, an instant burst of blaring trumpets, smashing pitchers, flaming light, and shouting voices through the ranks of Midian into wild panic, causing them to wreak havoc and destruction upon themselves. Thus, with this heaven-born stratagem, Gideon delivered the imperiled host of Israel. And now opposition such a compelled Gideon to employ a suitable stratagem through the medium of his 300 chosen ones, unavoidably compels Jezreel likewise to employ a suitable stratagem through the medium of his 3 chosen divisions. First, the entering wedge. Second, the 1950 General Conference special. And third, his White House recruiter. Silently ablaze with the light of life, these are making their way through the opposition and reaching captive hearts. But what fearful obstructions, entanglements, and hazards of debilism the truth has breakthrough. White House Recruiter, page 58. You see, brothers and sisters, entering wedge. That is the first one. Of course, we know that that is pointing to the right arm of the third angel's message, health reform. But how about the 1950 General Conference special? That is the booklet by which deal specifically who is he, the antitypical Elijah that is by. How about White House Recruiter? Right? There are many subjects in White House Recruiter. But for sure, it is a revelation of God's true divinely called movement. And that 3 must be found in 1. Now, let us read again the statement. 2 TG 39, page 19. Because the antitype, according to 1 SR 116, it is the prophecy by Ezekiel. Whose prophecy? the prophecy by Ezekiel. And the prophecy by Ezekiel gives the information in detail. The information is detailed, item by item. And it says, from the beginning of Luther's Reformation. But, brothers and sisters, it is not pointing to the groundwork. It is pointing to the perfect fulfillment of the prophecy by which that Reformation by Luther is pointing to the time when the fifth seal is opened. And that is why we distinctly separate the opening and the time when the fifth seal is open. If you will say the fifth seal is open, indicates that the entire proceedings under the fifth seal is finished. So, when the fifth seal is open, then the sixth seal, the opening of the sixth seal, commences. So the prophecy by Ezekiel is a continuation of the type, the old prophecy. From the commencement of the third angel's message to the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. From the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9, brothers and sisters, to the marking of the 144,000 and to the complete unrolling of the scroll. Now, I would like to read, let us continue reading 2 TG 39, page 19. Let us focus first the wheat. Who are they represented by the wheat? The 144,000. 1 SR 228. The wheat represents the 144,000. How about the barley? The barley represents the first of the first fruits. I would like to read 3 symbolic code, number 5 and 6, page 13. 3 symbolic code, number 5 and 6, page 13. This query is answered in track number 3, the harvest. In the illustration on page 44, of which the barley sheaf of the first fruits is pictured in type and antitype. That is, the ceremonial sheaf of barley prefigured the resurrection of Christ, the first fruits, including those who arose with him. These resurrected ones constituted the spiritual sheep which at the beginning of the judgment of 1844 was offered before the Father as a sheep offering of the living first fruits. And notice it did not say at the beginning of the judgment in 1844, but rather at the beginning of the judgment of 1844. Although we will have a separate subject concerning the wave sheep and the wave lobes type and antitype, both to the dead and to the living, or each to the dead, and each to the living, according to track number 3. But just to emphasize that, in this study, barley represents the first of the first fruits, and wheat represent the first fruits. And in Ezekiel chapter 4, wheat and barley are the first two grains. And wheat represent righteousness by faith. Now let us go back again to the reading. 2TG 39, page 19. What happened then to mark the beginning of the 40 years? It says, just this. So that is the beginning in 1890. 1890 plus 40 equals 1930. So what happened on that year in 1890? Just this. The denomination then wholly rejected the message that was to unfold the truth of righteousness by faith. So, not all pertaining to the subject, righteousness by faith, was revealed by God to Martin Luther. Otherwise, there will be no more unfoldment if that is the case. But supposed to be, it was in 1888, but it was muffled. Brothers and sisters. And it says the denomination wholly rejected that message. What message? Delivered by Alonzo, Jones, and Wagoner. The message that was to unfold the truth of righteousness by faith and the righteousness of Christ, the very truth that again began to unfold years later, the truth on which we are now feasting. God in His mercy, therefore, laid their iniquity upon the prophet Ezekiel during those 40 years, gave them a chance through righteousness by grace, so that they might have opportunity now to enter into righteousness by faith, and thus reap the reward of the righteousness of Christ. What is the righteousness of Christ? The reward. So, brothers and sisters, would you think the reward mentioned here is not connected with the reward characterized by 1 penny? So here the voice of inspiration says, the entire message of the shepherd's rod is the complete unfoldment of the truth, righteousness by faith, and the righteousness of Christ. So, the statement, the prophecy by Ezekiel is pointing first to the Bible and second, pointing to the entire Shepherd's Rod publications. Because we explained several times that what is the message of Ezekiel? The shepherd's rod is very plain in track number 1. On page 29 and page 30, it says, the reader will note that though the prophet Ezekiel,
was bidden to go to speak to his people. Yet instead of being told what to say, he was commanded, open thy mouth and eat that I gave thee. And then it says, as the words which Ezekiel was to speak to his people were found in the book which he ate, the book can be none other than the Bible, from which comes the message culminating in joy, mourning, and woe. Track number 1, page 29 and page 30. So what is the prophecy by Ezekiel? The entire Bible. And the Bible contains the complete formula of the plan of redemption. 1 TG number 10, page 18. But since it is a prophecy, it is more dealing to the future events than those events that already in the past. Although, according to track number 5, page 32, it is necessary in order to build the necessary foundation to build the future. Track number 5, page 32. The statements which must shortly come to pass, Revelation 1 verse 1, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter, Revelation 4 verse 1, go to say that the revelation is given with the one particular object in view of showing the things lying not behind but ahead of John's time, with the reference being made only incidentally to the past in order to lay the necessary foundation upon which to build the future. Track number 5, page 32. Let us distinctly separate the literal John and the antitypical John. Antitypical John the Beloved. God gave the vision to ancient John the Beloved, the literal John, but the understanding was not given to him. But what is the vision that was shown by God to John? In track 15, page 13. John was led to look into the sanctuary after the judgment had been set up. In fact, John not only saw the judgment in progress, but he saw the whole proceeding from start to finish. So we explained several times that the entire vision of John the Beloved is the entire proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary from start to finish. Now, let us go back again to the statement in 1 SR 116. Saying, the prophecy by Ezekiel gives the information in detail from the beginning of Luther's Reformation to Ezekiel 9, marking of the 144,000 and unrolling of the scroll. But the shepherd's rod in 2SR 213, it says, therefore, the Reformation by Luther falls under the fifth seal. And after it was opened, John was shown the souls of them that were slain for the word of God under the fourth seal. But if you will read the Bible, Let us read Revelation chapter 6. It says here, verse 9, and when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. So verse 9, according to 2SR 213, pointing to those who had been martyred for their faith under the fourth seal. Verse 10, and they cried with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And white robes were given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. So here, brothers and sisters, there are three martyrdom mentioned here. First, the souls under the altar. That is, those who have been martyred for their faith under the fourth seal. And second, the fellow, it says, the brethren mentioned. The fellow servants and then the brethren. So the fellow servants, brothers and sisters, are those martyred for their faith under the fifth seal during the dark ages. And then the brethren are those who will be martyred for their faith during the great tribulation, which is still future in our days. Or to summarize, in track number 3, page 39, since the exceeding great horn, there are 3 periods. So the souls under the altar, those who are martyred for their faith in the first period of the exceeding great horn, pagan Rome. The fellow servants, those who have been martyred for their faith in the second period of the exceeding great horn, papal Rome. And then the brethren are those who will be martyred for their faith when the horn power will be at work against God, against His people, and against His truth. Track number 3 on page 25. Now, let us go back to, let us connect to the book of Daniel. We already read in track number 15. Track number 15, page 15. It says, the student of advancing truth will also note that Daniel refers to but one judicial session. Hoping you can still remember the divine principle that if we will be talking about judicial session, the proceedings is in the most holy place. But if we will be talking about judicial sitting, the proceedings is in the holy place. Or judicial session, that is in the third heaven. Judicial sitting, that is in the second heaven. Now let us read track 15, page 15. The student of advancing truth will also note that Daniel refers to but one judicial session, although he does make mention of the judgment twice, first in verse 10 of chapter 7 and second in verse 22. Now let us read Daniel 7 verse 22, the second mention. Daniel 7 on verse 22. It says, until the Ancient of Days came, and the judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. This is the second mention of the first judicial session. The first mention is verse 10, by which Daniel says, a fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. That is before God the Father. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. Several times we read that description, fiery stream, that is the preparation of the second judicial session. According to track 15, page 18 and 19. Saying, the differences are seen in that before the half-hour silence occurs, there is at the throne a sea of glass like unto crystal, Revelation 4 verse 6, and no one stands on it, but after the half-hour silence passes away, the scene changes. The sea of glass is mingled with fire. That is the first occurrence when the scene changes after the half-hour silence. What happened to the sea of glass? Clear as crystal. It is already mingled with fire. And what is the next event? Brothers and sisters, we studied already that on the next half-hour silence, another change occurred. The sea of glass, which is mingled with fire, became fiery stream. And that is during the second sitting. Now let us read page 19. In other words, at the first judicial sitting, there is no one standing on the sea of glass, and the sea itself is like unto a crystal. While at the second sitting, the sea appears like unto a fiery stream, and the saints stand on it. And we will try our best with the help of the Lord that we could be able to explained it in more detailed manner. These three changes. The first change is the sea of glass, clear as crystal, mingled with fire. The second change, the sea of glass, clear as crystal, which mingled with fire, became fiery stream. And the third changes, the saints standing on it. If the occurrence occurred only in one single time, that when the fiery stream or when the sea of glass mingled with fire immediately become fiery stream, and then immediately the saints stand on it, then the shepherd's rod would not say that Daniel had not been able to see that the saints are standing on it. Only the portion when the sea of glass mingled with fire became fiery stream. Otherwise, we will be saying that Daniel saw the sea of glass mingled with fire become fiery stream, that the saints became invisible in the eyes of Daniel. But that is not the case. That is the last change that occurred in the heavenly sanctuary, by which the third and the last changes God no longer showed to Daniel. So, Daniel 7 verse 10, to repeat again, is not the commencement of the judicial proceedings, the first judicial session in the most holy place in October 22, 1844. Because at that time, the sea of glass is only like unto crystal, not yet fiery stream. So the statement in tract 15, page 13, that Daniel saw only the preparations were being made, that preparation which is being made is the preparation of the second judicial session. So it was illustrated that when the sea of glass mingled with fire, then become fiery stream, brothers and sisters, that is the preparation of the second judicial session. But the commencement of the second judicial session, the saints is standing on the sea of glass, which is clear as crystal, mingled with fire, which is became fiery stream. The commencement of that first judicial session, the saints are standing on it. And that portion never been showed by God to Daniel. Now let us go to the second mention of the first judicial session given by God to Daniel. Daniel 7, verse 22. I would like to read. Until the Ancient of Days came, and the judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. The first event is pointing to the time when the Ancient of Days came. Now, the groundwork, that is October 22, 1844. When the Ancient of Days sit on that judicial throne in the most holy place. And the judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. on the groundwork, who are they? The saints mentioned here that was given to them to participate in the judgment. Because the statement, and the judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, meaning the saints had been given the authority to participate on such judicial proceedings. I would like to read first one symbolic code, number 6, page 9. One symbolic code, number 6, page 9. Let me see this statement here. One symbolic code, number 6, page 9. I think I would like to begin on page 8. In part 2 of paper entitled The Doctrine on the Investigative Judgment by W. Fitzer, an ally of the Gathering Call, the author quotes from the Advent Review, August 1850, which our efforts fail to verify, where Elder James White is speaking of the judgment of the wicked during the millennium, and is using for his proof Daniel 7 verse 22, which scripture applies to that event. The article misconstrues both Elder White's statement and the scripture in trying to make us believe that Elder White is teaching that the investigative judgment is to begin after the second coming of Christ. That is the opposer. Because Elder James White applied Daniel 7 verse 22 during the millennium. Daniel 7 verse 22, brothers and sisters, yes, that is also called judgment. But it is no longer called, brothers and sisters, only investigative, but both investigative and executed. By which, during that time, the saints will judge the world. The fulfillment of the message of Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 2. Do ye not know that the saints shall judge the world? And this is pointing to during 1,000 years, that all saints, resurrected and living saints, they will judge the world, the wicked. Not only the wicked human being who are lying unconscious in their graves, but as well as all the wicked angels. So the judgment is given to the saints of the Most High during that time, but it is not the fulfillment of Daniel 7 verse 22, according to the shepherd's rod. And then it says, it then asks, at what time do you expect the judgment of Daniel 7 to take place? In answer, it quotes from Elder White's writings this statement: Daniel in the night visions, so that judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, but not to mortal saints. Not until the Ancient of Days came, and the little horn ceased prevailing which will not be until he is destroyed by the brightness of Christ's coming. So who are they? That the saints of that the judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. They were not the mortal saints, but they are the saints by which immortality were granted unto them. Who are they? They are the saints who are already in the heavenly sanctuary. For if they will not participate the judgment, the judicial proceedings, then for what purpose that they were there? And that is why the shepherd's rod says in track number 5, on page 115, as illustrated on the cover page of this tract, the 24 elders are a part of the judicial tribunal of the investigative judgment in the heavenly sanctuary. Track number 5, 115. But as far as the shepherd's rod is thus concerned, as well as the sanctuary doctrine, the voice of inspiration says in 2SR, page 215, it says, so while the door to the most holy was open, the entrance to the holy was closed. Therefore, the high priest alone used both apartments on the Day of Atonement. But it is pointing to the most holy place. 2SR 215. Pointing to the most holy place. In the most holy place, nobody participates in that judicial proceedings in the most holy place. Only Jesus Christ alone. Whoever were there, they will only serve as witnesses, but never participated in such judicial proceedings in the most holy place. The high priest alone. Conclusively, therefore, that statement that the judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, not the mortal saints, but the immortal saints, to the saints by which immortality was granted to them, brothers and sisters, they must be the saints that participated in the judicial proceedings in the holy place, but not in the most holy place. So Daniel 7 verse 22, brothers and sisters, has a double fulfillment. The groundwork occurred in October 22, 1844, when the judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. They participated the judicial proceedings only in the holy place, not in the most holy place. Daniel 7 verse 22. But that is not the particular object in view. Because that is the second mention of the first judicial session, as stated in tract 15:15. Now let us read 2SR. (171). It says, therefore, John's vision of the 144,000 as they stood on Mount Zion with the Lamb is an incident after this special company of saints had been sealed and sometime before the close of provision. Then it says, the sealing of the 144,000 is at the closing of the judgment of the dead and at the beginning of the judgment of the living. Therefore, they have a great duty to perform upon the earth in connection with the judgment. But when they would be allowed to participate in the judicial proceedings, it is at the time when immortality will be granted unto them. And it was illustrated that they were standing on Mount Zion, indicating immortality granted, the same with the groundwork, not the mortal saints, but the saints after immortality was granted, then they have been given the chance to participate in such judicial proceedings. So that vision that was shown by God to John the Beloved in Revelation 15, verse 2 and 3, that the 144,000 is standing on the sea of glass mingled with fire, which became fiery stream, indicates immortality granted, because that is the reward. Now let us read again the statement in track number 15, page 33. Track 15, page 33. Obviously, all who get the victory over the beast and over his image and over his mark and over the number of his name receive the reward, stand on the sea of glass. Therefore, to stand on the sea of glass, the significance is that you already received the reward. And what is the reward? Everlasting life, characterized by Penny, 2SR 235. We read several times, White House Recruiter, page 38 and 39, the very first one to be rewarded is the 144,000. And they will meet God the Father. Brothers and sisters, they will meet God the Father. Where? First in the most holy place, then in Mount Zion. I remember that reading material, I think, published by the Bayesian Advocators, and they call it track number 16. So let us read again. On page 32. Track 16, page 32. This, the 144,000, are they which followed the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. They followed him as truth progresses. Hence, they followed him as it progressed during his work in the sanctuary for the judgment of the dead, and then they faithfully follow him on as his ministerial work changes to the judgment of the living. Thus, they follow him on in victory to Mount Zion. So, I love so much this statement. You see, brothers and sisters, the 144,000 living saints, you and I, brothers and sisters. So, to repeat again, the entire book of Daniel is the full explanation according to 2 TG 33:11. The explanation is sufficient to explain both the occurrence on earth and the occurrence in the heavenly sanctuary, but only during the period of the judgment that pertains to the dead and up to the preparation of the judicial proceedings that pertains to the living. So the only privilege that was given by God to Daniel concerning the proceedings that pertains to the living, both in the holy place, both in the most holy place, and as well as the occurrence on earth, is only the time when the preparations were being made. Not at the time when the judicial proceedings, brothers and sisters, commence to start. So, hoping that our interest and our zeal in studying this plan of redemption will increase every day as we proceed in studying all the prophetic events. And brothers and sisters, that great change, would be on March 27, 2021 onwards. Great changes will happen. Not only the changes will occur in the heavenly sanctuary, but that is only a picture to the great change that will occur on earth. So hoping that the good Lord will bless you and would help us individually as we proceed this subject episode by episode. Thank you very much for listening and viewing this program. May the good Lord bless you and have a beautiful, wonderful evening.